Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Armin has two Yanni priests watching with him right
Who?
now. Armin.
Oh, yeah, the two priests. Yes, welcome.
They love this.
Oh.
I can't read what it says.
That's good, yeah. Well, thank you for coming. What's the priest's name?
Two of them.
Two priests from probably...
Gurdwara.
Might be
Gurdwara.
Is it Gurdwara? Oh, right. Cool.
So maybe we'll just do a little short thing.
Armor PP things.
So what do you want to hear tonight? Any
The
votes?
truth.
The truth.
This is the truth.
The truth, okay.
Nothing but the truth.
How about I continue where I was leaving off on the 11th canto? It's pretty good, actually. Yeah, these Yogendras had just... I was talking today, I had to give a little class when you were out there. And we're talking about the Yogendras. You ever read that story? The Yogendras, the 9 Yogendras.
No, that's from
What's in South India, are they?
Huh?
From South India?
It's the 11th canto.
11th canto, yeah. Yeah, it's a great story, actually. I'll read a little bit from there and see how it goes. I need some water.
Okay.
Somebody, okay. Put a little bit of that lemon in there too. I love that stuff. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Agyanatimadan. Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada. Jai Srila Gaurahari.
Got my old habit there. Just get a new one. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jesus. Jai Veda Vyas and all great devotees. We have a great debt to all of them. So this is 11, Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, and yeah, and we'll start with 4. Back up a little bit. Who wants to read?
I'll read. Who do you want to read? Who do you want to read?
I'm tired tonight.
No, I was. Who would you pick?
Did you say? You want to read?
I did.
Okay, wow, there we go. Oh, let me put this on where it doesn't change here. Okay. Put it on rotate off, and then the screen on.
Jai Jesus.
Okay, start with verse 4.
Srila Vyasudeva said,
Here, let's give you the mic here. What do you want?
this
Here?
one, because
Good.
the outer one, if I get too high.
Okay.
Srila Vyasudeva said, My Lord, your visit, like that of a father to his children, is for the benefit of all living beings. You especially help the most wretched amongst them, as well as those who are advanced on the path towards the Supreme Lord, Uttama Shloka. The activities of demigods lead to both misery and happiness for living beings, but the activities of great saints like you, who have accepted the infallible Lord as their very soul, results only in happiness of all beings. Those who worship the demigods receive reciprocation from the demigods in a way just corresponding to the offering. The demigods are attendants of karma, like a person's shadow, but sadhus are actually merciful to the fallen. A brahmana, although I am satisfied simply by seeing you, I still wish to inquire about those duties which give pleasure to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any mortal who faithfully hears about them is freed from all kinds of fear. In a previous birth on this earth, I worshiped the Supreme Lord Ananta, who alone can award liberation. But because I desired to have a child, I did not worship him for liberation. Thus I was bewildered by the Lord's illusory energy. My dear Lord, you are always true to your vow. Please instruct me clearly, so that by your mercy I may easily free myself from material existence, which is full of many dangers and keeps us constantly bound in fear. Sukadeva Goswami said, O King, Devarshi Narada was pleased by the question of the highly intelligent Vyasudeva, because they suggested the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They reminded Narada of Lord Krishna. Thus Narada replied to Vasudeva as follows. Sri Narada said, O best of the Sattvatas, you have quite correctly asked about the eternal duty of the living entity towards the Supreme Lord. Such devotional service to the Lord is so potent that its performance can purify the entire universe. Pure devotional service rendered to the Supreme Lord is spiritually so potent that simply by hearing about such transcendental service, by chanting its glories in response, by meditating on it, by respectfully and faithfully accepting it, or by praising the devotional service of others, even persons who hate the demigods and all other living beings, can be immediately purified. Today you have made me remember my Lord, the supremely blissful personality of Godhead Narayan. The Supreme Lord is so auspicious that whoever hears and chants about him becomes completely pious. To explain the devotional service of the Lord, sages have related the ancient history of the conversation between the great soul, King Vididha, and the sons of Rishabh. Swayambhuva Manu had a son named Maharaj Priyavarta, and amongst Priyavarta's son was Agnidara. From Agnidara was born Nibdhi, whose son was known as Rishabhadev. Sri Rishabhadev is accepted as an expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. He incarnated in this world to propagate those religious principles that lead living entities to ultimate liberation. He had 100 sons, all perfect in Vedic knowledge. Of the 100 sons of Lord Rishabhadev, the eldest, Bharat, was completely devoted to Lord Narayan. It is because of Bharata's fame that this planet is now celebrated as the Great Bharat Varsha. King Bharat rejected this material world, considering all types of material pleasure temporary and useless. Leaving his beautiful young wife and family, he worshipped Lord Hari by severe austerities and obtained the abode of the Lord after 3 lifetimes. 9 of the remaining sons of Rishabhadev became the ruler of the 9 islands of Bharata Varsha, and they exercised complete sovereignty over this planet. Sovereignty. 81 sons became twice-born Brahmins and helped initiate the Vedic path of fruitive sacrifices, Karmakanda. The 9 remaining sons of Rishabh were greatly fortunate sages who worked vigorously to spread knowledge of the absolute truth. They wandered about naked and were very well versed in spiritual science. Their names were Kavi, Havar, Antaraksha, Prabhada, Pipalayana, Avritotra, Durmila, Kamasha, and Karabhajana. These sages wandered the earth, seeing the entire universe with all its gross and subtle objects as a manifestation of the Supreme Lord and as non-different from the self. The 9 Yogendras are liberated souls who travel freely to the planet of the demigods, and perfected mystic, the sadhas, the heavenly musicians, the yakshas, the human beings, and the minor demigods such as the Kinnaras and the serpents. No mundane force can check their free movement, and exactly as they wish, they can travel as well to the worlds of the sages, the angels, the ghostly followers of Lord Shiva, the Vidyadharvas, the Brahmanas, and the cows. Once in Ajanabha, the former name of the earth, they came upon the sacrificial performance of the great soul Maharaj Nimi, who was being carried out under the direction of elevated sages. My dear king, seeing those pure devotees of the Lord who rival the sun in brilliance, everyone present, the performer of the sacrifice, the Brahmins, and even the sacrificial fires, stood in respect. King Vadidha Nimi understood that the 9 sages were exalted devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, overjoyed at their auspicious arrival, he offered them suitable sitting places and worshipped them in the proper way, just as one would worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Overwhelmed by the transcendental joy, the king humbly bowed his head and then proceeded to question the 9 sages. These 9 great souls glowed with their own effulgence, and thus appeared equal to the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord Brahma. King Vadhidha said, I think that you must be direct associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is famous as the enemy of the demon Madhu. Indeed, the pure devotees of Lord Vishnu wander throughout the universe, not for their personal, selfish interests, but to purify all the conditioned souls. For the conditioned souls, the human body is most difficult to achieve, and it can be lost at any moment. But I think that even those who have achieved human life rarely gain the association of pure devotees, who are dear to the Lord of Vaikuntha. Therefore, O completely sinless one, I ask you to kindly tell me what the supreme good is. After all, even half a moment's association with pure devotees within this world of birth and death is a priceless treasure for any man. Please speak about how one engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. If you consider me capable of properly hearing these topics, when a living entity offers loving service to the Supreme Lord, the Lord is immediately satisfied, and in return, he will give even his own self to the surrendered soul. Sri Narada said, O Vasudeva, when Maharaj Nimi had thus inquired from the 9 Yogendras about devotional service to the Lord, those best of saintly persons sincerely thanked the king for his questions and spoke to him with affection in the presence of the members of the sacrificial assembly and the Brahmana priests. Sri Kavi said, I consider that one whose intelligence is completely disturbed by his falsely identifying himself with the temporary material world can achieve rare freedom from fear only by worshiping the lotus feet of the infallible Supreme Lord. In such devotional service, all fear ceases entirely. Even ignorant living entities can very easily come to know the Supreme Lord if they adopt those means prescribed by the Supreme Lord himself. The process recommended by the Lord is to be known as Bhagavat Dharma, or devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. O King, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will never blunder on his path in this world. Even while running with eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. In accordance with the particular nature one has acquired in conditioned life, whatever one does with body, words, mind, senses, intelligence, or purified consciousness, one should offer to the Supreme, thinking, this is for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external, illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency for illusion, called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and as his very life and soul. Although the duality of the material world does not ultimately exist, the conditioned soul experiences it as real under the influence of his own conditioned intelligence. This imaginary experience of a world separate from Krishna can be compared to the acts of dreaming and desiring. When a conditioned soul dreams at night of something desirable or horrible, or when he daydreams of what he would like to have or avoid, he creates a reality that has no existence beyond his own imagination. The tendency of the mind is to accept and reject various activities based on sense gratification. Therefore, an intelligent person should control the mind, restricting it from the illusion of seeing things separate from Krishna. And when the mind is thus controlled, he will experience actual fearlessness. An intelligent person who has controlled his mind and conquered fear should give up all attachment to material objects such as wife, family, and nation, and should wander freely without embarrassment, hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord, and the bearer of the chariot wheel. The holy names of Krishna are all auspicious because they describe his transcendental birth and activities which he performs within this world for the salvation of the conditioned souls. Thus the holy names of the Lord are sung throughout the world. By chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee is fixed in his vow as an eternal servant of the Lord, and he gradually becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As his heart melts with ecstatic love, he laughs very loudly, or cries or shouts. Sometimes he sings and dances like a madman, for he is indifferent to the public opinion. A devotee should not see anything as being separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Ether, fire, air, water, earth, the sun and other luminaries, all living beings, the directions, trees and other plants, the rivers and oceans, whatever a devotee experiences, he should consider it to be an expansion of Krishna. Thus, seeing everything that exists within creation as the body of the Supreme Lord, Hari, the devotee should offer his sincere respects to the entire expansion of the Lord's body. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Read that statement again.
Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
See devotion and devotion. Oh, say that devotion. What else?
Direct experience.
And direct experience. See, that's the name of God, the pastimes of God. That's direct experience. But you got to get them both at the same time, and that's this idea with Radha and Krishna, is they need to be together. See, otherwise you see but you don't see. You see the pastimes there, but without the devotion there, then you cannot recognize the Lord. He's there but not there. Recognizing you have to have that devotion. So when we're saturated with our worship is saturated with devotion. When we're chanting the name and devotion appears, now you can recognize the Lord, and you're recognized by the Lord at that point. See, that's when the Lord, he told Madhav Puri, because of your ecstatic love awakening, now I'm going to deliver so many conditioned souls. See, and so he goes like these other verses said, one should have a spiritual master and engage in not just devotional service, unalloyed devotional service, because it's the spiritual master that engages you in service in where you get this taste, and without motive and like fruitive desire or anything like that. So even though we're not qualified, we're, by the mercy of the spiritual master, we're engaged when our service is accepted because of that grace of Guru. Otherwise, we're not qualified. Even you may even have some taints of this or that, but the Lord has given you that grace, that unalloyed service, and that'll dissolve all this, whatever, impurities are there or desires for this or that. But you get that by that grace of Guru. See, otherwise, you remember we read Chaitanya Mangal, that it's only by, the Lord is attained only by unalloyed devotional service. Not by sadhana, not by pious activities, not by renunciation or austerities, only by unalloyed devotion. Therefore, work under the direction of Srivas, the bona fide spiritual master. Okay? And they engage us, like Madhavinda Puri engaged so many people in services that even though they were Brahmins before that, they weren't really engaged until you're engaged by a Vaishnava who is accepted into that service. See, and then you'll notice, you get taste. You start to get taste for doing the service, not just a Vaidhi thing. You just, it becomes tasteful. It's kind of like the idea, where remember offering food to the picture of Prabhupada. It's kind of that idea. And like I remember the Gaudiya Vaishnavas didn't like, what is this? You got to offer directly to Krishna. That's proper, not to, some had a problem with that. And but Prabhupada knew these deeper principles. It's to teach us. It's by the mercy of the Guru we're engaged in this Krishna service. That for me to do what I'm doing, I have to be, it's the mercy of Prabhupada's order. Otherwise, it's impossible. Can you imagine doing a job like this and having stuff like this happen? Forget it. It has to be under that direction. Yeah, I ain't qualified to do anything. And that's the truth about everybody. Nobody's qualified. Nobody, there's this idea of pure devotee. People don't understand how that works. Pure devotee is just having Krishna agreeing to give himself to you. He's the only pure thing in this world. And without Krishna and living in our hearts, there's no possibility of purification. See, that's why the Lord told Madhavinda Puri, because you're ecstatic love, that means Krishna gave himself to him. So I'm going to deliver so many living entities. Krishna has to do it through the Guru. See? So even Jesus said, he said when the person, oh, you're so good, you're so great, you're a great person, he said, there's none good but the Father. See, he's the only spotlessly pure one. Okay? So, and he gives credit to the Guru because he's choosing that instrument, that particular flute, to deliver people. So that's why you got to give respect to the Guru and not just say, well, it's just Krishna doing it. Like that a disciple of Prabhupada said, aren't we fortunate that Krishna came to America? And Prabhupada said, no, you're fortunate I came and gave you Krishna, engaging you in devotional service. So you can't cut the Guru out. As soon as you do that, you've lost the real connection. You go into offense. You'll start to lose. Offense is you lose affection. Isn't that what happens here? Some people, they may be doing good and everything, but when they cut the Guru out, all of a sudden they don't care about anybody. We're not their family anymore, huh? It's 4 or 5 times this happened. It's like at first I thought, wow, this is weird. We had such a nice thing. But then they do this cutting the Guru out, and all of a sudden they're, equal and all this, and then they just kind of go do their own thing, not even care. Because I finally started to realize we're developing a family here. But it's got to be done the right way. See, because as soon as you lose that, the right way, you cut the Guru out and everything, you start losing affection for the family. And because we got to come through Guru. And Prabhupada engaged me in this service, and that's why there's harmony here. People are agreeing to go that way. As soon as one person might think, oh, just as good and all that. Yeah, I ain't any good. Krishna is good, but he's working this way in the Guru principle. And people are getting engaged in pure devotional service. How can we do this kind? What we're doing is miracles here. Miracles. I mean, people, their spiritual forms awakening, and people reading the verses that Rupa Goswami and only Swarab Damodar Johan was reading those verses. They were only rare devotees could understand those verses. Even back then, 500 years ago, here Johan's relishing those things. Because you can only understand those if that kind of ecstatic emotion awakens. You can't understand these things without it. See, so the mercy of Lord Chaitanya is coming through to do very miraculous stuff, you know. So that's the process. See, that's how we get into this. This is why we can attain this prema bhakti through the mercy of the disciplic line when the Lord is giving it now. So whoever believes this stuff, you know, gives honor to what we're doing. I mean, aren't we? We're if I wasn't so tired, I'd be talking all up, because I started it this afternoon. It was wonderful. But I'm just here listening. We'll say that because there's so many beautiful things here in this section here about pure devotional service, Bhagavad Dharma. You know. Okay, go ahead.
Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously. You
see how the detachment is automatic also, because that's reality. This is self-realization. Is the devotion revealing the truth. See, the truth that of God, and that's where the taste is involved. And then the detachment is like, that's all illusion. It's not real. Okay? So I think maybe we'll stop here, because everybody's a little tired here. You guys had a big day today.
Yes, God.
That's great. It's amazing they stay out like 4 hours today, huh? 4 hours.
We started at what?
I don't know. We left at 11:30.
We just kept singing.
11:30, yeah, long time.
Singing in the rain.
Yeah.
Singing in the rain.
Yeah, more.
Yeah.
Big umbrellas.
Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, guys, gals, we'll see you in the morning, huh? And see what happens here. Hare Krishna. A little bit tired. I'd like to talk more about these things. There's so many beautiful things here. Haribol.